Good morning.
Well,
Welcome to the Light on
he's working.
Suitability podcast. Sorry.
Ron.
Welcome. I'm your host, Elizabeth Comeau. I'm with Joseph Haytas, co-host and author of 36 Strategies of Suitability for any loved ones of people incarcerated or who have people incarcerated, who have loved ones incarcerated. Good read, excellent read. I've had a lot of people comment on this book as being quite a great guide for tracking their progress and so on, and just helping them get to the finish line. I love Jerry Spence. Who doesn't love Jerry Spence? He's an icon. That's how Joe starts the chapter. Fear. So today we're talking about, we've gone through strategies 1 through 20. Today, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we're talking about the fear chapter 21. Last week we talked about brutally honest. So the only thing to minimize at a parole hearing, your fear. Jerry Spence says, fear is like a pack of dogs. It chases us. And if we try to run or hide from it, the dogs will continue their chase until finally, exhausted, we fall and are devoured. But if we turn on the dogs, turn on the fear, concentrate on it and feel it, we're taken into a different world. Something happens to the dogs. When we face the dogs, they begin to slink away. Embracing fear, we leave fear powerless. Fear becomes afraid of us. And that's from his book, How to Win Your Case Every Time. Well, every time in San Diego County against the District Attorney of San Diego, Orange County, I don't know. But yes, love Jerry. Love him. Mm-hmm. This, what's going on here? What's this all about? Where's the fear coming from? What kind of fear do our clients face? Joe?
Well, it's in the context of the hearing, you want to, they're always talking about coping skills, and as it relates to, relapse plans and addressing substance abuse, anger, criminal thinking, whatever it is. But why don't you add to that fear? Because we have fear in our lives. I mean, fear happens. So get another coping skill for the fear that you feel going in the hearing. And that fear comes from being in a very important hearing where your freedom is determined for X number of years, forever, if you're granted parole. That is, if you don't mess up when you're on parole. But I mean, it's such the magnitude of the hearing is so great. Fear is okay if you can control it and funnel that energy. So a little bit of fear is good. Excuse me. But when fear messes us up, it's when it has that paralyzing effect where you can't move or think. So fear is a negative energy, but we can turn it into a positive, like Jerry Spence says. If we can look it in the face, don't back down. If you do that with dogs that go after you, 99, well, maybe not 99, 95% of the time, the dog will turn and go the other way if you face it and you don't back down. So that's, I believe that's what Jerry Spence there means by that. And also, he gets, he's in his 90s now, I believe, but when he was out doing trials, and he may still be doing some, who knows, he was fearful when he was, like he talks about in his book, when he was doing his closing statement in the, I can't remember the one case now, but every trial is important. I don't care who you're representing. We feel that fear. And I believe one of the techniques he uses is just getting quiet and centering yourself and, focusing on your heart and speaking from the heart and speaking from deep within you, what you're feeling. So, fear goes back. I believe it's genetically part of us. It goes back, and it's been written on our genes since, the dawn of man, practically, when man had to go and fight off dinosaurs and other, they had to hunt for food, and heck, not just dinosaurs, but whatever wildlife they were going after. And then they would sit around the campfire at night and telling their stories of however they got their food, or how they escaped some kind of dangerous reptile that day. But I think it's written on our genes, the fear element. And so we have to control it, and we have to funnel it into more creative pursuits. Otherwise, it's going to paralyze us, and we're not going to be effective in anything that we do in civilization. So it can fuel you, or it can paralyze you, and so you got to use that energy to move forward and to do your best in the moment.
For sure, for sure. And I think that some of the other stuff you talk about that, or perhaps some key points to how to address that fear is, well, there's a ton of fears, right? The fear of relapse, fearing recidivism on parole, fear of the public perception when you're on parole, and just fear of the unknown, the things you don't know when you're going to get back out there. But I think that either you talked about them, or in some ways to be gleaned from Jerry Spence as well, is just number one, acknowledge the fear, you know, just
That's
say,
right.
okay,
Mhm.
I have this fear. I'm feeling afraid, and then identify, okay, of what? Okay, is it those things? Is it other things? That way you take yourself into a proactive stance rather than pretending or using some kind of a spiritual bypass to just say, "Oh no, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. Everything's good. Life is great." And then because your body will take over, your vagus nerve, your amygdala, and all those things will come flooding out when you're under pressure and sitting on the hot seat. So, and the other way to do it is through confidence, through in your program. And again, I'll harken back to the 12 steps, and that is continuing to go to these meetings, share and hear other people, and listen to other people when they share. It's extremely powerful for gaining confidence and practicing your skills of speaking about your history, your patterns, your growth, your change, your journey of change, your experience, strength, and hope, as they say in 12 steps. And that way, the other way to neutralize the fear is just simply by presenting concrete evidence of your rehabilitation and change. What a better way to conquer fear. And it's okay. You're afraid. That's okay. Just complete programs, get programs that increase your self-esteem, get the certificates, complete them, show your change in your institutional behavior, your laudatory chronos from officers that say, inmate Smith has done an awesome job. I mean, I used to know him back in the day, and what a change he's made. He's always, steps up to the plate. He's very respectful now. and he's really an asset to my team or whatever it is, or on the yard, I can always count on him or her to do the right thing in the face of controversy. The other thing is these relapse prevention plans also can help you. Okay, I'm afraid of relapse. All right, but you've got a plan. And so the fear is not the problem. It's the lack of solution to that problem that you think you have. And sometimes fear is simply false evidence appearing real, but we're all entitled to our feelings. And anybody who says, oh, just don't feel that is not on a realistic planet with the rest of us. But in your relapse prevention plan, as we've discussed before, high risk situations, have a strong support system if possible, have resources, have a game plan for yourself. And also another thing that's the 12 steps teaches is in overcoming your fear is step 1, right? Just being honest. I have these problems. I am afraid. Step 5, the exact nature of my wrongs. I'm afraid. I'm just feeling afraid. Okay. What are you afraid of? Let's talk about it. Really flush it out and try to bring shedding light on something is always extremely powerful tool. Having a plan for, what you're going to do. I'm afraid of, being homeless when I get out there. Nobody's going to hire me because I've got this felony, very serious, violent felony conviction. Okay. Get a plan, have a plan. Where are you going to live? Where are you going to work? If you don't have a job offer or that strong support system yet, how are you going to, create support networks? Where are you going to get the training you need or whatever it is? Get vocational training then. Create a resume before you out and really look at your accomplishments, the community support that you could rely on, even if you don't have family that can support you. Because a lot of times families all gung-ho about supporting you family members out there and with your loved ones, you're all gung-ho, but then life just, it continues to happen. The momentum and the adrenaline rush of, oh my God, and the romanticism of he's coming home, she's coming home. But then life keeps going and your loved one may end up having to stand on his own or her own 2 feet at that moment. And the other thing is, if you internalize your programming and you're able to just speak about it from a non-scripted, non-impression management type of way, you're also going to have a lot of confidence to overcome the fear of, oh my God, what question are they going to ask me? What if they ask a question I don't know the answer? Well, really, you should know all the answers because they're just really asking you questions about things that you should have studied, your loved one should have studied before coming to the hearing. And I think all of these things can help shift a perspective from fear to confidence. So fear, what's the opposite of fear? I don't know. Some Course in Miracles says love, but that's a whole different ball game for parole hearings. I would say confidence is probably the opposite of fear. I don't know. What do you think about all that?
Yeah, I think everything that we're saying, it comes down to one word, that if they do this, uh, they'll minimize fear, and that's over preparation. You're fearing being asked questions that you don't know the answer to. And they're questions that you should be learning and have internalized well before the hearing. Like, what are your, triggers for substance abuse? What are, you know, who's your sponsor in AANA? Where's that support letter? Why don't you have more support in the community? Whatever the question is, and these are things you got to be working on. The things you have to be hit the ground running when the commissioner tells the deputy commissioner to go on the record. Uh, it's as simple as that, and it's as difficult as that. And it's all about programming. It's all about change. It's you got to prepare. You got to be prepared, and not just halfway. Even if you can't do a mock hearing before the hearing, you can have questions in front of you and know those answers. Know all the answers. Know the causative factors, the character defects. They need to just roll off your tongue like it's second nature, like you're talking about the game you saw on Sunday, and just go in and have an effing conversation, because you know this stuff, because you've internalized it. And if you've internalized it, you live it. So if you live it, you can talk about it. Like we could give thousands of examples of it. Like,
I liked your example,
I
though.
eat
I
and I
mean,
do the dishes, okay?
the,
I've
the,
internalized doing the dishes, okay,
yeah,
after I eat. So
right,
that's
right,
what
right.
all the self-help stuff, if it's internalized, you can talk about it. So it's no great mystery. And if you've done the work, yeah, you're a little nervous going in, but you don't have to have that paralyzing fear like, oh my gosh. And I understand. Everybody says, well, this is the rest of my life. Well, of course it is. Well, that's why you need to prepare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And your example about the game, it's like we represent mostly men, Joe and I do, and they'll say, I just can't remember this stuff, and I just can't, I don't have good retention. And I just say, yeah, but you could sit there and talk all day long about your favorite team, and you know all their names and all their plays and what happens games ago and what they need to succeed at the next game and this play and that play. So I just say, and I go back to them and I just say, look, repetition is the key to mastery. You've got to use it. You can't just read it once. You can't just go to one. The course is just the foundation. Just getting the certificate is not it. It's now putting that into play day after day after day. And how do you do that? In a variety of ways, through your actions, writing about it, talking about it, and listening to it and seeing it in action over and over and over and over and over. That's how something is internalized. It's extremely important. When I tell people, oh, I don't have a good memory, it's like, oh, I've got retention issues if I'm asking about disabilities or whatever, because I'm old now. And I get it. I do, because I sometimes I can't remember my client's name, but if you jog my memory on some particular thing, then it comes back to me, because we're dealing with 80 clients on a rotating basis. And it's not really, again, I'm sort of supporting my own argument that repetition is the key to mastery. But again, if I were to just study my client's case every single day, like I can tell you about my LWOP habeas mostly inside and out. Now, there may be some details that I'm missing, but I've worked on that case for 10 years. And really, that's what your rehabilitation, your loved one's rehabilitation should be. It should be 10 years of studying and immersing all day long. And in particular, and I'll harp on this over and over, 12-step meetings is everything. It's all of it. Everything you're doing, other than vocational and educational and things like that, and work assignments, okay? But even that, you can bring your best foot forward from the 12 steps. Step 12, be of service. How are you being of service today? Turning something over to God when your coworker's being a butthead or whatever it is, looking at yourself rather than always looking outside of yourself. Okay, looking at myself. How could I have improved this situation, even at work or whatever? And always just bringing your best foot forward. But I think it's an important chapter in your book. I really like it. I'm always asking you some goofy questions like, why is it 21 instead of 15? But I think it's an important chapter. And sometimes it's hard to organize these because they all seem, once we talk about them, they all seem sort of important. Or not sort of important, but they all seem of paramount importance But then it must have been hard for you to organize as to, well, they're all really important. But I do agree with you, though. I always go back to your strategy one. You want to go out or not, then you can start from there. So definitely step one.
Yes. Now, also with fear, I think obviously it's huge to being over prepared. However, there's other techniques too, like breathing techniques, and get a good breathing technique to help settle you down. Like breathe in, breathe out, like 12 times while you're, between the time you finish talking with your attorney before the hearing and 8:30 when they bring you in for the hearing. Uh, something simple as that can help calm you down. The fear's not going to go away, but you'll be a little bit more, just slightly more relaxed. It'll take the edge off it, and I think that'll help too. Having a breathing technique to use, and just getting quiet, and even what I dare say on this program, but say a prayer. If you believe in God, say a prayer. What's wrong with that? I hope you're not offended.
Well, Joe, step 11 is prayer meditation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Prayer meditation, and so much resistance to all that God stuff, but really it's just a word in exchange for you can have it whatever you want, higher power. But the way AA, NA, and all these other 12-step programs says, your best thinking is what got you here. So you need a different higher power than yourself. That's all that
your
it
best
means.
thinking. Very, very good, Elizabeth.
No, that's not me. That's from the big book.
Well, you've internalized it.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. No, that's from the AA big book. That's what Bill teaches. Your own
Sure.
best thinking got you here. So get off the I don't believe in God bandwagon.
Ugh.
It's just something outside of yourself. Turn it out outside of yourself, whatever divine force created you, because you weren't created out of nothing. Go for that.
Amen. Yes. Yeah. Like you said, it's something outside of yourself. It's something that whatever people like to say with their ego. And ego, it's an acronym for edging God out, because
Edging
you're
God
more
out.
important than God. But hey, give yourself up, because like you said, your thinking got you here. So what are you doing different today, pal?
It's like God is not my ego. You can call it Holy Spirit. You can the silence, peace, my peace of mind, whatever that small still voice is that's necessary to get you beyond what you were doing before. So important. I just really think that I'm more and more convinced that the 12 steps are key to someone really succeeding. Most of my clients that get granted parole, not all, but most, have an extremely internalized, not only understanding, but they really do. The 12 steps is part of their lifestyle. They live it every day. I've just noticed that at their parole hearings, they go to it. They don't just recite it. They're using it. They've embraced it. It's in their heart of hearts, and they're planning on using it on the outside. I hope, because it is really
It's an
powerful.
excellent observation. I see the same thing too. People who are working the 12 steps and actually do it and know it, not because they've memorized it verbatim, but because they actually practice it. Those are the ones that seem to me more often than not to be going home,
100%. I really have seen that as a pattern, and it's not a bias. It's not a religious bias or anything, but everything they ask you at these hearings, what are your character defects? How have you managed those character defects? Ultimately, your character defect is the disease because you use the alcohol, drugs, gangs, etc. as the, that's the symptom. That's actually the symptom of the disease. The disease is your character defects ultimately. And when you get going, when you use, say, alcohol to cope with your character defects, whomever it is, we don't just use one glass of beer just to take the edge off. Alcoholics go to town, right? It's game on at that point. So it's such an important, or gangs or whatever, the food, gambling, sex, it's all in there to cope with something that's internally broken. And that brokenness can be healed through a variety of methods, but one of the most powerful methods is 12 steps. And it's been around a long time.
Yes, it has.
And as they say, it works if you work it. And that's the key. It's not it works, period. It's it works if you work it. So I would work getting paroled. If I was doing this now and I were in prison, I would work the 12 steps. Whatever way I could, I would get a group of my own. If there's no group, like for the certificate, there's no group. I was like, you can sit in the day room and you can organize your own group. Get the scripts, read the 12 steps, read the tradition, read the promises at the end, talk about how you share, tag people to share their experiences, have a reading from the big book. You can do it all right there in the day room. I've seen the tables in the day room when I got to go there to talk to people that don't want to come talk to me. I don't take no for an answer, so I just go out there.
Yeah. Elizabeth,
I
you're
do
preaching
take no.
good.
I take
You
no for
are
an
preaching
answer.
good.
Once I go to the cell and they say no, then I'm like, okay, boundaries. You set your boundary. Fine. I'll see you later.
Yeah.
Sorry that you're there. Sorry that you're in that spot of not healing, but I hope you do
the
one
same
day.
thing. You remind me too of when they declined going to the meeting with the psychologist for the evaluation, and it's sad because more often than not they're rated high when they don't show up because it's just a paper review and they can't give any of their own input.
I know. Supposedly, but the paperwork is interesting, and the paperwork is necessary now. Now, the commissioners, since they're not going to ask any questions if you have write-ups, now that paperwork is more necessary than ever.
That's
so now
right.
I'm going to have to change all of my advice to people about not putting insight statements in, not putting statements of accountability, all that stuff. I'm going to have to change my advice and just say, put it all in case, if you've got a write-up, you need to put it all in.
Yeah.
Yep. Last week, not one question asked of my client.
About
Anything.
Anything other than the write-up?
Nothing. Didn't even ask about the write-up.
What?
0 questions.
Well, how long did that hearing last? Like 25 minutes?
25 seconds.
Seriously?
I'm being
We'll have to talk
exaggerative.
off screen about this, okay? I don't want to.
I'm just saying it's
about fear.
something that's coming. I'm going to submit a request for decision review to bring it to someone's attention, but I've noticed it more and more. It started with just, I'll ask you about the recent write-up and move on. But again,
Right.
I think that's a violation of something. I'm trying to figure it out because you're supposed to consider all factors. Otherwise, how are you making a decision about the number of years to deny parole?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's something called, I believe, due process under the Constitution.
Well, they have a notice and right to be heard. I guess I could have asked questions, but what am I clarifying?
Yeah.
Aren't we clarifying? I guess we're allowed to present our own evidence, but then if he had a lot of documents, thankfully, but still, I mean, they denied him 5 years. He did have 2 write-ups last year and they were not good write-ups, but I think on an initial hearing, I think it's a little out there for my taste even. I think the result would have been the same because it was some serious stuff, okay? I'm
Sure.
not trying to minimize for that, but it wasn't like 2
If they're in
counts of,
prison, it's always serious stuff, okay? I get it.
but it wasn't like a window covering or something like this. I mean, there were serious write-ups. I don't wanna give too much
Okay.
detail away in
No,
case
no, I know.
'cause I'm kinda narrowing it to last week, and now somebody could narrow it to me, so I don't wanna do that, but, yeah, a little shocking, but yeah, let's talk. I can definitely I mean, I basically told you what happened, but,
Mhm.
next week, Joe, what's the, I think we're going to documentation or something.
Yeah, next week we'll be talking about uh, the presentation of documents at hearings. You are correct. Hmm.
For anybody that wants to know too, my private client who didn't admit to the crime, didn't admit to being the perpetrator, he was a accomplice, not the actual perpetrator, was granted parole, just to dispel the myths, was granted parole.
Was this through at a suitability hearing or resentencing?
Yes.
Yes.
Suitability hearing.
Oh, great. Fantastic. That is so
Yeah.
good to hear. Congratulations,
No,
Elizabeth.
I'm just saying because I need to keep putting that out there. If anybody listens, not many people listen. Unfortunately, my clients, I give them the information for the family members to watch the show and to see what's really going on in there, but I think maybe they don't want to. I don't know how to get the messages out to the family members.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of doing like I don't know, maybe put a card in with my flyer that they could send to the family to sign on to the show or something.
Yeah.
I tell them how they can sign on, but anyway, I'm gonna sign out. I'm talking kind of off the record stuff here anyway.
Yeah.
So with that, we are going to end the stream. Thank you to anyone who listens during the show, after the show in particular, and of course, it's a small community. We're a small community, but it's a resource. So thanks to everyone. Thanks to you in particular, Joe. I always like spending my Sunday with you, at least my little bit of Sunday morning, seeing
Same
you. That's
here.
nice. I like the
The feeling is mutual, Elizabeth.
I
Thank
like the
you.
little I don't want to call it a ritual, just the I don't know,
Hmm.
commitment
Exactly.
to, especially when you're so isolated like me in the country. I don't have a lot of friends.
Well, it doesn't matter where you're at. Nobody likes lawyers.
There you go. And with that, we're off the record.
All right. Thank you.